So I think one of the biggest challenges that most people do not identify when it comes to prayer is that the first thing you need to learn is the dimensions of God, the characteristics of God, the dimensions and the depth of who God is to understand who you're calling for. God is a multitask God, multi-ability God, which means we cannot put God in a box. So the first thing we must learn is the basics of the Spirit of God, who He is, how He functions, and the capacity that He can serve in every dimension. Once you identify that, now you're ready to call Him to the God you're needing in prayer. Yes, the prayer boot camp is going to change so many lives because it's going to go back to the basic training to what prayer is, the purpose of prayer, and how it can really manifest in your life. You know, a lot of times people just do prayer, but prayer is not what you do. Prayer is who you become. And one of the first things we have to identify is who is God. Not only who is God, but the capacity of how He operates, the characteristics of what He carries, the capacity and how He can serve us, the dimensions of who He is and how He functions. So a lot of times people pray to God in the capacity that does not meet that particular need. We have to identify that whatever our needs are, then that is the God we pray to. Because God is a multitask God. He's a multi-dimensional God. We cannot put God in a box. So when you begin to call on the characteristics of what you're needing from God, then you're walking into the place of identifying that this prayer is effectual. You know, people are really wanting answers, and people really wanting to see a supernatural thing happen in their lives that would give them comfort in their particular situation. What I am learning is that if we do not get back to the basics of understanding the foundational usage of prayer, we're going to continue to move and operate on formality and religion, and we're going to miss the move of God. Prayer is a form of worship, but prayer is what I consider to be called a supernatural communication into a realm that is not of this earth. And the Bible tells us whatever you bind on earth, you bind on heaven. Whatever you loose on earth, you loose in heaven, which means there has to be a connection to where you are in the position of earth to where you are in the eyes of God in the supernatural. And until we understand that there is literally what I call a target, there is an aim that you have to hit, we're going to keep missing the target. We're going to keep continuing to pray and just using words and not seeing the manifestation of what we're calling for in the supernatural. The purpose of the prayer boot camp is to change lives, is to equip people, is to make sure they understand that they have a tool that is so valuable, a tool that money cannot buy, a tool that no man can take, a tool, though, however, that can reach a supernatural realm to cause really what I consider to be many things to happen in their life in a timely manner. This is the thing. Sometimes it's not that we're praying the wrong prayer, but we're praying the prayer in the wrong timing. And so now we got to talk about what is the utilizing of proper time. What does that really mean? And the timing of God is everything. Sometimes we'll miss windows and doors, and those windows or doors are asking and seeking out a prayer. And we're missing it because we're so busy looking at tangible things and the what I call the routine of traditional operations and practices, that we're missing the move and the wind of God because we do not understand timing. The prayer boot camp is going to open eyes, because I've learned in my years of training experience, errors, mistakes, that sometimes we think what we carry is what's going to cause things to happen. There's no sense to carry something if you do not know how to use what you carry. You have to learn how to properly use what God has given us. And when you begin to learn that prayer is not for just a place of distress, but prayer is also a place of what I consider to be manifestation, what I call proactive strategy, Because when you begin to see now that prayer is really a strategic operation of warfare, but it's also a strategic operation of victory. And if you begin to understand the concept of that, then you're really tapping into a whole different level of prayer you have never embarked on. I am so excited that the prayer boot camp is going to change your lives. And I'm going to say this to you. I only expect those who are really ready to tap into a level of prayer where they can move from a warrior to a general just by being trained properly and also moving into a place of activation. And I've learned this: no matter how much you know and no matter how much you do, if you do not operate in the foundations and the basis of what God has given you, everything you're doing is truly in vain. It's not going to move the way you expect it to move. Allow the prayer boot camp to literally awaken the general in you as always been. The prayer boot camp is necessary. It is essential. It is a must, because we cannot go along with just praying based on what we heard other people do. We have to learn how to pray, the proper way of praying, and the essence of what prayer stands for and what it represents, as well as its function. So people think prayer is just something that you get into a place and you say some words and you talk to the supernatural, who God is, but it's deeper than that. There are aspects of prayer that are not touched upon as it should.